winter snowstorm to audition for the cantorial program. And I stayed with Cantor Wendy Siegel, who not only hosted me, but perhaps more importantly, lent me a very nice pair of shoes to audition in. During my audition, in front of Cantor's Torgove, Triton, Mayer, Bohr, and Osborne, I felt that it was Cantor Osborne who was making the biggest impression upon me. With his tall, imposing presence, he towered over the others, but said nothing the entire time, except to look somewhat sternly at me from his perch behind the table. Eventually, the interview drew to a close, and the opportunity for final questions from the panel arose. Cantor Osborne leaned over the table and stared fixedly at my feet. And then, in his inimitable way, he made his only contribution to the interview that day. I love your shoes.
To the elevator that
I have ever had the pleasure to learn with. The friends I have made, the Torah I have learned will accompany me throughout my life outside of this college and into the future. In particular, the Cantorial and Jewish Studies program with their unparalleled foci of academic excellence and the beauty of Jewish musical traditions have been the making of soon-to-be cantor Bex. And as I know, they have also been for my peers. Conversations about prayer, classes on music, thinking about God and Torah and our individual Jewish journeys have enriched my character and empowered me to feel perhaps not quite there, but fairly confident in my life as cantor to be, as Abby Strasberg so beautifully told us earlier. In addition, exposure to the HC community, to the Hebrew College community, in all its glorious colours, has been most educational. An early conversation about brachot with my Makorot class showed how much we had to learn from each other, and how diverse our perspectives were, and still are, I suspect. Sitting in the student lounge and draped over the armchairs and squeezed onto the floor, we were discussing what brachot people say and in what manner. I assert to the room at large that there would never need to be a rule about saying a bracha with clothes on, because, come on, who would say a bracha naked anyway? And from the corner of the room, Shoshana, now Rabbi Shoshana, pipes up, "But I say brachot naked all the time!" She and I stared in wonderment at one another as we absorbed the completely different Jewish backgrounds that we have grown up in and been exposed to. And we have been inseparable friends since that first year and still manage to surprise one another. Now, as someone who rarely goes through life in a straightforward, uncomplicated fashion, true to form, I did not pass quietly through my years here at Hebrew College. Just as the end was about to be in sight for me, I was diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer, which shattered my comfortable world and threw me headlong into the proverbial lion's den of hospitals, doctors, health insurance, and even marriage, to my fiancé of just 3 weeks. Hebrew College could not have been more accommodating and supportive during this difficult time. From rides to food to letters of comfort and visits from friends, the college rallied around me alongside my parents and husband, of course, to carry me as gracefully as possible through the next year or more. And what is more, I have observed that the college also extends this flexibility to others with each of their individual situations and circumstances in mind. And during this time, I Skyped into college from my hospital bed. I tutored students for bar and bat mitzvah from my chemo chair. And I experimented with headscarves of all kinds, earning me a new frock. And then, not very long after my recovery, we had a baby. Flexibility to me, as it has done for others, allowing me to bring the baby to class, extending deadlines, and Skyping in when I simply could not leave the house. And because of Hebrew College, I am standing here today before you, someone who has been to hell and back in a handbasket, all the while knowing that the handbasket was surrounded and supported by love and compassion and a very strong hand. And because of this amazing education, the sympathetic teachers, the wonderful friends, and the overall flexibility and dedication of this college, I am finally able to graduate with my Master's in Jewish Studies and be ordained as a cantor. And I am also supremely grateful for the financial aid I received from them in order to complete this course of study. From this position of privilege, I intend to go out and make my perhaps not so Britishly understated mark in the Jewish professional world. And furthermore, because Hebrew College has prepared me to be assertive, to know when I need to ask for help, to question, to probe, to know when to listen and when to offer counsel, and above all, never to stop challenging myself, I consider myself ready to leave this comfortable nest and fly. And I extend grateful thanks to everyone who has loved and supported me on this long journey to the cantorate, and congratulate all those who are graduating today. May we all go from strength to strength on our individual journeys. And as A.A. Milne once said, it isn't really goodbye, because the forest will always